a former Meta vice president turned whistleblower, testifying in the bellwether social media addiction trial, said that Meta repeatedly put engagement over safety and prioritized a profit-first, test-later mentality. Brian Boland, who worked at Facebook for 11 years, added this on the stand: "From my experience, work around safety was someone else's problem. Keeping people safe was not important to Mark Zuckerberg or the company." Also testifying this: "If growth is the goal, then the algorithm will dispassionately chase that goal. These are incredibly sophisticated mechanisms," he testified. "They are absolutely relentless in the pursuit of their goal. There is not a moral algorithm. That is not a thing." Meta previously pushed back on the plaintiff's claims, saying this: "We strongly disagree with these allegations and are confident that the evidence will show our long-standing commitment to supporting young people." Meantime, other countries are making strides with bans against young users, but the U.S. is looking to catch up. Cheryl, how do you see this, and how do you feel that whistleblower testimony will impact the ultimate outcome?
Well, we haven't heard from the companies, and I think that's where it's going to get really interesting, because their defense is going to be, we do have age controls, parental controls in place, and this is coming from the company. We've got content moderation tools in place. We have reporting mechanisms for harmful content. That's one thing. They're also going to push back on what is addiction, which we've already heard a little bit in the back and forth in the courtroom this week earlier. They're not in court today. The bigger story here is that depending on how this case goes, this one case, this opens up the floodgates for financial settlements. And there's 3,000 cases sitting in California courts. There's 2,000 sitting in federal courts. These are all teed up and ready to go, depending on this particular case and why it's getting the attention that it is. Now, this could end up being what we saw with the tobacco companies back in the 80s. This could be that type of onslaught against these corporations, whether you think that they did affect this woman's mental health or not. I've seen y'all have that discussion on the couch already, so I won't revisit the past with you here. But I will say this, that at the end of the day, we're talking about potentially billions of dollars in loss. And the other thing is the algorithms. And that is the mechanism where I think this is going to come down to, and that's going to be the engineers. That's going to be heard out in court. Some of the internal communications are disturbing. Yes, I agree. I'm a human being. On the other side, these are major companies that say we are doing things to stop this.
And Harris, this was the bridge we were looking to, because we heard from Zuckerberg on the stand saying, we don't chase clicks, we only chase value add, and here are the steps in place to protect kids. These whistleblowers were sort of going to connect and provide the nexus of the but-for causation that the product development and the algorithms indeed had this horrifying effect on these kids.
So, Emily, do you remember this week when he was on the stand, and we were, because there were no cameras inside, so we were kind of commenting, and we had color coming in via our producers, that it sounded like Zuckerberg acknowledged the fact that, yes, they had done some things, but also acknowledged that, you know, again, for those parents and for the answers, he may not have chosen all the things. They may not have done everything they could do. I mean, that was tacitly what he was saying. And so I looked at the stock, because I'm looking at the midday right now. I wondered, would that have an immediate effect on stock for Meta? Like, how is it working?
The decision will.
Yeah. This is not. Like, whatever he said yesterday, the stock went up 2.5%. It's up at midday today. The stock is showing bullish momentum and hovering near the upper end of its 52-week range. And then it gives the price, and I won't go into that because that's on you. That's what you do. But it is interesting. So the decision will, and then will you do what TikTok did? Will you just settle with everybody? Because the more you go through this, I think it will affect that bottom line even on a daily basis.
Here's, real quick, this is why TikTok and Snap, I don't think they should have settled, and I agree that Meta and Google need to fight this, because if you settle in this case, that does not take you out of all the other cases that are coming, and those are thousands of cases.
Money to just settle them all.
We're talking, it could potentially be billions of dollars globally. So actually, I would say it's kind of a no.
They have it, they may not want to spend.
Well, you're going to destroy the companies. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how the case should come out. I think the evidence should matter. I will say, at least from just a human perspective, there's no question in my mind that these apps are addictive. The point is to hook us, and they're very successful at that. They do so with adults with great success, and I'm guilty of it myself. Kids have no impulse control. They don't have fully formed brains yet. So you have so many children, I think, sucked into this screen world in a way that I think culturally is damaging and individually is damaging to them. Whether a company's liable for that, separate question, but I think we should be honest and open about what's actually happening here. And then the other thing, Emily, if you look at some of the reporting about these algorithms, there's reporting out there that some of the people who run these companies, top executives at these social media companies, they don't allow their own children to use their own products.
Correct. Mark Zuckerberg's kids do not have social media. None of them do.
That seems like a pretty big tell, in my opinion. And whether a company should be punished by law, I don't know. Parents should take more control. And that brings us to the question about these laws for children and minors in other countries.
Yeah, and some who really don't favor regulation are pushing for it here because those mitigation measures are so circumnavigable. I mean, Australia kids are putting up pictures of Beyonce so they can get around these mitigation measures that the executives stand so hard behind.
Mm-hmm. And, even if there is prohibition in this country, which, I am not in favor of, I think it is morally imperative for these companies themselves to change their algorithm, and they should add a moral component to the algorithm. And I'm absolutely certain they have the technology that can identify when someone who is underage has become addicted to the app, addicted to the device. They know that. And instead of scaling back or altering the algorithm, they go all in and make sure that the person who cannot live, who cannot exist without their face buried in that screen, that they get more of it and more of the content that pulls them in and morphs their changing brain. Because Guy's absolutely right. It's not just impulse control, but that's a critical factor. It's the fact that the interface changes how they see themselves, how they feel about themselves. It devalues them. I don't want the federal government to have to come in because they will always be one or two or an infinite number of steps behind these giant tech companies. They have to do it themselves, and if it takes the courts to do it, and it takes the fear of financial loss, then so be it.
And that's what I'm saying. They may work on the algorithms in the wake of this. I think they already are. Really quick, the AI chatbots. The AI chatbots is the other concern that we should talk about.
So what's the check in the system to make sure that the algorithms are different? Do we put together a count? Like, gosh, everybody's silent.
Great question.
Because I don't trust.
Lawsuits, right?
Like, because you talk about how much money is involved. I'm just curious. Just a question.
Because the collateral damage in the interim while we wait for that confirmation, that's children dying.
Exactly.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.